Hey, I haven't looked at everybody's, but a couple I see in some common mistakes is there a variable can be part of your GCF. Now it says use the GCF to factor the following. Now factoring means to write as a product. And I know Jordan asked yesterday, so why do we do this? Well, one of the main reasons we do this is we move forward. When things are factored, you can cancel and make things simpler. And that's kind of one of the main reasons. But for right now, it's not going to, you're not going to see the big picture for a little while because we got to learn like the details. So once we learn the details and we get a little bit further, hopefully the bigger picture will show up, is that we can cancel things out and make complicated things more simple. All right, so that's kind of like where we're heading with all this. The GCF can have a variable, but for the first one, the 15 doesn't have anything. So your GCF is a 3. That's the number that will go into both of those. And when I divide, I get 3x cubed plus 5. That's going to be your answer. Okay. What's my GCF? Colin, what do you have the GCF for number 2?
6y squared.
Okay. A lot of you just had 6. I don't want to say a lot, a few that I looked at. I didn't look at everybody's. But if they both have the same variable, that has to be part of the GCF. Now, to get that GCF, you can do the factor tree. But, you know, in the end, that's going to be way too much work. If you can just look at it and say do 24 and 18 and 6, if you can do that, that makes life easier. The factor tree will always work because 24y to the 5th, okay, that would be 1, 2, 3 2s, a 3, and I'd have 5 y's. And then what is 18y squared? That would be 2, a 3, and 2 y's. Well, what do we got in common? A pair of 2s, a pair of 3s, and a pair of y's. I multiply that together, you get 6y squared. Now, do you have to go through all that? No, you don't have to. If you come up to a problem, things aren't clicking, and you can't figure it out, then I would do it. 6y squared. Colin, what do you get for the rest of your answer?
So 6y squared, and then in parentheses, and 24y cubed. Or no. It's 4y cubed.
Oh, thank you. I was worried. 4y cubed. And then what?
Minus 3.
Minus 3. Always double check in the parentheses. Do they have anything in common? They don't. All right, now, and I'm going to go over, all right, number 3 here. GCF. What do you think, Zach Walls?
It's 6c.
6c. And so we divide each of these by 6c, and what do you get on the inside?
2c is cubed.
Okay.
5c minus 1.
All right, really good point here. And I have a couple. If you have this, is exactly the same. You do have to put a 1. You can't just drop it and put anything. So if I got 3 terms here, you got to have 3 terms on the inside. Now I heard a couple people say, is it 3 or is it 6? Okay, for the GCF. What happens if you pick 3C? And why is that not 100% correct? And let me just show you. So somebody says, oh, I'm going to use 3C as my GCF. Preston, I think you did that, didn't you?
Yep.
What did you get on the inside here?
2c cubed.
Whoa, it's 12 divided by 3.
First, I was looking at my English. First c to the third plus 10c minus 2.
Okay. This is somewhat factored, but it's not factored 100% correct because take a look at these constants. Preston, can anything divide into 4, 10, and 2? Do they have anything in common?
They're all even.
They're all even, so they're all divisible by what number?
2.
2. So that means you did not pick the greatest common factor. You picked a common factor. The greatest common factor would make sure that these do not have anything in common because 2, 5, and 1 do not have anything in common. And that's important. We want to have them with nothing in common. Okay? And so that's why when you look, so if you do this, you don't have to start over. You say, all right, they all have what in common? They all have a 2 in common. Take that out and multiply it by the 3C to get 6C. And now just divide these all by 2. And that's what you get there, okay? That's what you get there. All right, what numbers do you say we need to go over, Mr. Schlur?
37 and 39.
All right, 37 and 39. Let's see if I got them up here. Well, 37.
Wait, I thought 37 can't be factored.
Okay, it can't be factored. Okay, so if you take a look at 37, you're looking for a common parenthesis. They don't have a common parenthesis. So in this case here, can't be factored. Okay, or prime. Some people put prime. I accept either one. Okay. 39. Okay. You're looking for what's in front of the y minus 7. If you look on this second one, there's nothing in front of there. So put a 1 there. You can always put a 1 there. So that gives me y minus 7. And then I get 6y plus 1. You're going to have 6y plus 1 as your second group. Doesn't matter what order, Amanda, I put my 2 answers. Nope, doesn't matter. So if you put 6y plus 1 first, and then y minus 7, that's fine. That's fine. All right, your other answers, I got most of them up here. 27.
Josh, do you have your move?
9y times y plus 5 should be your answer. 9y times y plus 5. Oh, I graded his test. 28 should be 12, parentheses 3d cubed plus 2. 29 should be, now for this one, did anybody have a negative x squared out there? If that first number is negative, I would actually prefer you to have a negative x squared, but they'll both work. So if you did negative x squared, and then it should be 14 x squared minus 5. Those are both the same. They're both equivalent. They're both correct. So this is one where your GCF is just a variable. You don't have a constant. That's okay. That can happen. Now 30. Definitely if they're both negative, factor out a negative. Negative 5f. 3 plus 2f would be the inside. 31. Negative d squared. If that first one's negative, I like this GCF to be negative. That changes all your signs to 4d squared minus d plus 3. 32. 7x parentheses 2x squared plus 9x minus 1. 35, make it negative 5, or wait, 33. 7c parentheses 3c plus 2. 34, 11 is your GCF, just the 11. 3d cubed plus 2d plus 1. And 35 is negative 5g squared parentheses g plus 3. Okay, for those. All right, we are going to go a quiz tomorrow. Now you might be saying, "Or why are we're having a little bit more quizzes than normal?" Because we just got to break this down into smaller chunks because it's a little bit more hard. It's a little harder material. Okay, we just wait till we do a really big quiz. Tendency is not to do very well, so we want to hit it in smaller chunks. Okay, give you so you don't have to remember as much at a time. It just kind of helps you learn it a little bit at a time. For that. All right, I do have some guided notes. We're going to finish 8-2 today. There's a little bit of piece that we got to finish. Or a part. And let's see. So we have prime factorization on there, factor trees, and then factor. I did your guys' not the way it is good.
Why would they say no?
You're in the corner of the.
Mine's pretty low.
Oh, I didn't get a solid.
Okay,
That'd be nice.
make the first one negative. Take out.
Yeah, man. That's all you need. Just think about it. You just live there.
Expecting at least, how about a B tomorrow? Got a C on the last one, how about a B?
Come on, I can get a B.
I know. Small increments, I think you can do it though.
I believe in you, man. I'll help you study, it's fine. I don't mind doing the background. Don't worry.
Hey, real quick, okay, put this first part here on the back. I just wanna cover this on the back. And just pay attention to the first couple. Now, Sam, what do you think I can factor that first one into?
Factor? Oh, you could divide, no, like, you could, I don't know how to explain, you could put,
What would the answer be? Do you know what the answer would be?
oh, yeah, 4s minus 5 in parentheses. And parentheses next to it, s plus 6.
Okay, so yeah, sometimes it's easier just to give me the answer to describe the whole thing. That's fine. That would be the answer. You do have to have both in parentheses. You gotta watch that. You cannot say 4s minus 5 and then put parentheses s plus 6. Those are two different problems. This is a FOIL problem here. This is where I just distribute -5. Two different problems. You have to have them both in parentheses. Okay. Now, what's the answer to that 3b right there? What do you think that answer is? Connor?
7x plus 1 in parentheses, and then next to it, 2x plus 3 in parentheses.
7x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. You got to put a 1 there in front of 2x plus 3. All right, now, this next one, little red flag. In those other two, you had an s plus 6 in parentheses and an s plus 6. You had a 2x plus 3 and a 2x plus 3. Exactly the same thing. But in the third one, what's in parentheses? Are they exactly the same thing? They're not exactly, are they close? Listen, they're close, but they're not exactly the same. And now here's what you also got to watch. If you just change the order, you cannot just flip this around and make it x minus 4. Can't do that because the negative has to go with the x. Right? So you can get it close. So I got 3x squared x minus 4 plus 5. I can flip this around and write -x plus 4 because the negative goes with the x and that's a plus 4. Are they the same now? No, but they're close. How can I make them the same? That's what I got to do. I got to find a way to make them the same. So that, because this is, like I said, this helps us make things simpler as we move forward.
You can just change the positive to a negative.
Which positive?
The plus 5.
Okay, so if I make this a -5, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then do what with those?
Make the x positive and the 4 negative.
All right, he's right. That's what we can do. Now, there's a little bit of math going on that he didn't tell us about, which is okay, but that's what happened. Okay, now everything's the same. What would my answer be? It would be x minus 4 times 3x squared minus 5. So there's a way to do it. There is a way to do it. Now, here's what he did. Here's what he did. So he had negative x plus 4. He basically took out a negative 1. And so you're going to divide everything by negative 1. So if I take out a negative 1 out of there and I divide each of these by negative 1, what's the only thing that happens? It just changes your signs. Okay, so he kind of mentally did that. He may not even have known it, but he did it. And so now this negative 1 is going to affect that positive 5 and change its sign. So as you look here, and just pay attention to this, okay, if you have something like 5 minus x and x minus 5, which you basically have, they're almost the same. They're just a different order. We can write 5 minus x by taking out a negative 1 and making it x minus 5. We can flip the order and get exactly what we want. So that's how we do that. So if I need to flip something, so like 5 minus x is going to be negative 1 times x minus 5. If I have 10 minus x, that's going to be negative 1 times x minus 10. It's going to allow me to flip everything. Or that should be a negative 1 there, sorry. Negative 1, x minus 10. Okay, so that's going to come into handy when we're factoring a couple of those. Okay, so you got to watch that. So let me throw one out at you here. So if I have, let's say I got 2x times x minus 3 minus 4, 3 minus x. All right, so let's take a look at what that would look like. So do write that one down. Write that one down on the back. Joe?
Would it be? It's still the same, you just have to flip it, right?
So I can take 3 minus x, and I can write it as negative 1 times x minus 3.
Yeah.
So how's that going to affect? The first part isn't going to be affected. So now you got to think I got a negative 4 here. I'm going to have a negative 1 as well. Those two negatives together are going to become a positive 4. Okay? So when I take out that negative 1, whatever is here, like Connor said, it's going to change that sign. So now I got x minus 3 times 2x plus 4. Okay, x minus 3 times 2x plus 4. So if you got two things, you're like, dang, I can factor these out. They're really close, but they're not exactly the same. That's where you do the negative 1 little trick. And so basically it's going to change whatever this middle sign is because we took a negative out, and it's like a negative and a negative together. All right, now, it says you may be able to factor a polynomial by what's called grouping. When a polynomial has 4 terms, you can make 2 groups and factor out the GCF. It's going to look very similar to what we just did. All right, just pay attention to this. Here, I'm on the front now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. There is not a GCF for all 4 terms, okay, because 5 won't go into everything and 3 won't go into everything. If you group the first 2 terms, hold on. There we go. There's a GCF here of 3a squared, and there's a GCF here of 5. Now, when I factor that out, take a look what happens in parentheses. I get the same thing in parentheses, and now I can rewrite it as 4a minus 3 times 3a squared plus 5. So it's a little, if I got 4 terms, this is something called grouping. This is something called grouping. All right, is this the first one you got?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do you have a GCF for all of them? Anything go into all numbers? No. When that happens, here's what you want. Now, when I do grouping, I don't like to put parentheses around them. I just like to underline the first group, and I'm going to underline the second group. And now you got 2 separate problems. So look at those first 2 values. Zane, do you know what the GCF would be for those first 2?
2b to the second.
2b to the second. Okay, so now I'm going to take that and put it out front, and I'm going to divide them both by 2b to the second. What's 6b cubed divided by Evan? What's 6b cubed divided by 2b squared?
12B
divided,
and 6B.
6 divided,
3B.
3b, there we go. What's 8b squared divided by 2b squared?
4B.
Just 4, because the b squared's canceled. Hey, that's one thing you gotta watch here. When they're the exact same power to the same power, that actually just disappears. All right, really important thing here. Whatever this sign is, that has to go down, and you've got to put it between the two that we're doing. If you don't, then you end up making a big mistake. So whatever the sign is that splits it in half, that goes in between those two values. What's the GCF, Amanda, of the next two terms? 3. And so you put the 3 down, and then when you divide them both by 3, I get 3b plus 4. Do you get matching parentheses now? Yep. So now I got to do one more step, because this technically isn't factored, because this is not a multiplication problem, because I'm adding two things. So now I can take 3b plus 4 is my first group, and now 2b squared plus 3 is my second group. That's why it's really important to put this plus sign there, because it gives you that sign of the second group, whether you were minusing or whether it was plus. That is our final answer. That is your final answer.
And this is what we had on the back sheet of the paper when we were doing, so like 3A, 3B, and 3C. We had this kind of problem here. We had to add this step to get here, okay? And we went over these types of ones yesterday. So the last step's not new. This is the new stuff, grouping it.
Yes, you definitely, that's started with just already giving you the parentheses from yesterday. Okay, number 2, got 4 terms. This is, like, when you see 4 terms, this is what we call grouping method. All right, you group the first 2, and when I group them, I'm gonna underline them, okay? And make them clear. So I underline, and then I underline those 2, and I treat it as 2 at a time. 2 separate problems. All right, now be careful here. Jordan?
X to the second.
X, good. X to the second is my GCF for this first group. And then when you factor that out, you divide it. So what's going to go in the parentheses there, Jordan? What do you think will go in the parentheses then?
3x to the first.
Okay. And then what? You got to take 3x cubed divided by x squared, which gives me 3x. And what's 2x squared divided by x squared?
1.
Don't forget the 2. If your original group has 2 terms, you have to have 2 terms in parentheses. Okay? All right. Big step here, this plus sign. I'm going to really make a big deal of that. That needs to come down in between the 2. Whatever sign splits them in half, that needs to come down. Okay. Hanan, what's my GCF for the next part? 5. Just a 5, because the 10 doesn't have an x. And then when I take 15x divided by 5, I get 3x. Negative 10 divided by 5 is minus 2. We really want to have that group to be the same. Now, is it the same for both of them?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Joe, you know what my answer is then?
No.
All right, what do they have in common? What is that group? So that's going to be the first part of my answer. The second part of your answer is whatever's in front of the 2 groups, which would be?
X to the second plus 5.
There you go. That's your answer. Can you have it in the other order? Yes. Both of them have to be in parentheses. X squared plus 5, 3x minus 2. Okay, both of them have to be in parentheses. All right, you do number 3. See what you come up with for number 3.
There's no way.
Okay, now you're gonna do this line underneath both of them. You're gonna do two separate problems.
Wait, I just
Erase that. Oh, there's a little curveball here, number 3.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
that one's kind of tough.
All right, let me, if you're stuck on the curveball. Grant, what's the GCF here?
I got 4.
4? There's something else. What about the variables?
Oh, 4 R squared.
4R.
4R, sorry.
So 4R. And then when you do that, you get R squared plus 6, right? What's the GCF of R squared plus 6? Nothing really goes into both. So when nothing goes into both, you just let it be a 1. Now, that plus goes down because you notice I'm going to put that 1 in front and I'm just going to put R squared plus 6 in parentheses. And it's going to work out because what do I have in both parentheses? I have R squared plus 6. And so I get R squared plus 6 times 4R plus 1. All right, now, if you take a look, my number 4 is exactly the same problem. I want to just show you something. You can just pay attention to this. What'd you notice about the order of these terms? Are they in the typical order? No, they're out of order. If you want to, sometimes it's helpful to go ahead and put them back in order. So if they give you something like this, you can rearrange it, make it 4R cubed plus R squared plus 24R plus 6. Now I'm going to group it. What's my GCF for the first 2, though? Just be careful. GCF for the first 2. Or Preston?
R squared.
So it's R squared, and then I get 4R plus, what's R squared divided by R squared? 1. GCF here is a 6, and I get 4R plus 1. I'm going to end up with the same answer. And I don't necessarily know if it's easier or not. It just, if you rearrange and put them in descending order, R cubed, R squared, sometimes people do that, handle it a little bit better. It's not like you have to, but just see you get a little bit different work for that one. Okay. Now, this is your number 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, now, when there's a minus sign then, when there's a minus sign. Good. Good. All right, Zach, what's my GCF for the first 2?
2x squared.
2x squared. When I divide by 2x squared, Zach, what do I get?
X minus 6.
Okay, now, if this is a minus, here's what we want to do. You want your GCF to be negative. Okay? And what is the GCF? So just put a negative in front of it. What will go into 3x and 18? Zach? So it's going to be -3. So now that will go here. So that makes sure, if we do it this way, that makes sure that that minus sign ends up right where we need it. You cannot make that a +3. But now here's what you got to be careful. What's -3x divided by -3? That is just x. And what's 18 divided by -3? -6. Because if you don't make it a negative, you're not going to get those 2 to match inside. And so I get 2x squared minus 3 times x minus 6. Okay, and let's see what happens here on 5. This is the last one we're going to do here. We'll have to save the other. All right. 8 will go into both. So I got y minus 1. That's a negative. The only thing they have in common is an x. So make it a -x. So that makes sure that those two match up. I got a negative in between. All right, now be careful here. Josh, take a look. I can count on you. What do I get when I divide by negative x?
-1 + y.
Actually, think of that as negative x divided by negative x, which would make it positive 1, and then positive divided by negative would make it negative y. So you really got to watch that. All right, what situation we just run into here? This is a y minus 1. This is a 1 minus y. Are they the same? No. This is a little case. What do? You can make a negative 1. So what's that going to do to this sign right there? That's going to make that a plus. And then we're going to make this a y minus 1. And so in the end, I got y minus 1 times 8 plus x. So we got a couple things going on with that one. Okay. Hold on here a second. All right, if you're finishing up that one, page 535, 1 through 10, and 40 through 48, we're gonna go review that at the beginning of class. Quiz doesn't take that long. We wanna make sure you're doing the right thing. No. What?
I did 12 and 10 today. I did the homework.
Almost not the
18 questions.
That's gonna be okay.
So we got 20.
I'll just write it.
That's just not possible. You dumb. You dumb.
20 questions.
18. 8 plus 10.
Wow. Bro, 1 and 10. You have to 10. That's 10.
10.
40 through 48. 40. I'm trying to count. 48.
1. No, so actually like 9 questions.
Is it that?
It's like that. It's not 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You want spots? I don't know.